Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Attention. Do I have everybody's attention now? Burn it down!
This is the In My House Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Finally, The Rock has come back home.
Scotty Villa brings you your new favorite pro wrestling podcast.
There is nothing you could do that is more dangerous than wrestling CM Punk.
He's got the latest in covering all of the major promotions in professional wrestling.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
Breaking news and hot topics, he's covering everything from Monday night till Sunday night's main event.
I'm the hottest thing in professional wrestling. I'm Dr. Britt Baker.
And we never forget to go old school.
I was rowdy before rowdy was cool.
From the golden era
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
to the attitude era.
And if you're not down with that, Billy's got 2 words for you.
To the revolution.
It's about the 14 years it took me to go from undesirable to un-goddamn deniable.
And everything in between. This is your pro wrestling podcast. This is In My House.
Give me a hell yeah.
Welcome everyone to the In My House Pro Wrestling Podcast. We are back for another fantastic week. It is Scotty Villa. It is Monday Night Mike.
Hey! Hey!
UK Tom's off this week. We love you, pal.
Much love to our correspondent, UK Tom.
Any of you follow us on the socials, which I'm sure almost everybody that does listen to this does follow us on the socials at In My House Pod. You know, we had a pretty big week last week, which for some podcasts is just, this is normal business. That's what they do. But we got
for this lazy podcast, big things.
We got moving last week, and you can now hear this podcast on legitimately the major platforms. Spotify, we've been on since pretty much day one. We got up on YouTube last week. I'm going to be uploading all episodes going forward, including this one on YouTube, so you can listen/watch. We're not putting ourselves on there, but a nice little graphic. And the other big one that people have been asking for since day one, we are now on Apple Podcasts. So make sure you head over to all of those podcast platforms, YouTube, subscribe, rate, and share. You know the deal. Every podcast and every YouTube video does it. That's what we want from you guys. That's all we can ask for is a quick subscribe, rate, and share. And it helps out so much. That's what got us to this point to begin with, is because you guys have been doing that so far. So sharing and rating is massive and huge. But yeah, we are everywhere now on all major platforms. And I was feeling the high for the rest of the week, dude. Like can we just tell the story of that real quick?
Yeah. Yes.
So I edited the podcast last week. Mm-hmm. Monday Night Mike publishes it. It's up and good to go. Awesome. I was bored on Wednesday night, I think, watching Dynamite, which we'll get into later.
Oof.
And I was like, I'm just gonna, because we had a different plan for the YouTube deal, but I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw this up on the podcast and start doing it every week. It takes me literally 15 minutes to do what we do to get it up on YouTube. Then I just let it publish overnight and we're good to go. So I did that Thursday morning, let the guys know, guys, we should announce our YouTube page. I've already put up this week's episode. Let's put it out there. The guys are pumped. So we did that. And like a half hour later, I think you came back with like, oh, by the way, we're on Apple Podcasts now.
Yeah. So for me, I always just like the hoops you got to get through. And that's just sheer laziness on my part. So sorry to our listeners who only have Apple Podcasts. Grow up. But thanks for listening. I finally put the work in, and now we are distributed where you need it to be. Yes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Samsung Podcast Index, Listen Notes, and of course, if you have just looking at an RSS feed, we have that as well. And the big one that was missing, Apple Podcasts. And for our Apple listeners, Every episode of the In My House Pro Wrestling podcast is available on there. It is not just the most recent one. It is every episode that was available on Spotify is also available on Apple Podcasts. So it's time to catch up. There's 77 main entries, some side episodes. There's some fun stuff for you to go through our journey through pro wrestling.
Yeah, have fun, have a blast. Let us know what you're listening to, if you're catching up, if you're staying caught up. Again, the big sharing and rating and all that fun stuff. You know what it is. But thanks to everyone that's already done that and continues to do that. But yeah, we're everywhere. Let's just get the word out, and we can do more rad and cool stuff. But Mike, before we're gonna talk All Elite Wrestling in a few minutes.
There you go, fans. We're talking All Elite Wrestling.
But before we get to that, I do want to talk about something that's kind of close to home. It's in our home country of Canada. The announcement of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Scott D'Amore, who used to run TNA/Impact Wrestling, has now started his new venture with Maple Leaf Pro, and I'm very excited for this. It's a Canadian company that has their first big 2 shows in October. They've got big stars like Josh Alexander from Impact Wrestling, Giselle Shaw, the former Jinder Mahal is going to be there as well. And we don't know too much about it other than, it's got a great name. It's got a great booker behind it. That's for sure. But I guess what I want to get into is what the hopes are for this company that we might have. And I don't mind. And it's easy. We tweeted about it. We talked about it in the group chat. Is I hope you're touring across Canada, and I hope you come to the Western Canada, specifically Saskatchewan for us, but I hope you're coming across Canada and not just staying in Ontario and in Quebec, because if you're grabbing wrestlers like that, who are pretty big names and gonna put on great matches, we want to see that out here. We want to see what you can do. And it looks like a great product that's going to be on Fight TV with their pay-per-views, I guess, shows. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to reach out to Scott D'Amore and see if we can book an interview.
I also think it's good to get touring. Like, I think Canada's untapped. Like, I think if you have the money in the backing, I think the goal is, let's get across Canada. Let's make the market, right? Like, let's show here in Saskatchewan that we're going to bring people to shows. Hint, hint, y'all. Come out to shows. Come out to wrestling shows. There's always something happening. You just got to find it. So you'll see us there at CWE shows, or if not, ringside wrestling shows. Like, we're there. You will see the In My House Pro Wrestling podcast guys out and about. But support these kind of things. It's nice that we have an option, and these things take off, and the match quality is there, and the internet's talking about it. You could be in attendance at shows the world is talking about. So just keep that in mind. I'm excited. I do obviously think you want to break ground in the bigger market, like in Ontario or obviously Quebec. I mean, obviously, I think BC is also a heavy populated area, but you got to make your way there. So making those stops along the way could be worthwhile.
I'm very curious to see what and if there will be any type of involvement with wrestlers that we've seen at a CWE show or a ringside wrestling show or any other independent scene company in Canada, because sure, you can get some of these bigger names to come out and put on these cards, but you need local guys to fill those cards out quite a bit. And I'm curious if Danny Duggan has had talks with Scott D'Amore about, I don't want to say a partnership or working together, but like, we've got talent with CWE and you need talent at Maple Leaf Pro. What can be done?
I think there's promotions across every province that have probably, I think you make your rounds to be like, what's the hot promotion in every territory in Canada?
Yeah.
And what do we get for talent to come and work, right? Because you got to book shows. So that means, like, if it even be an hour and a half, 2 hours, sure, you can have your talent, but you're also going to want to highlight some local talent. And there is some local talent to be had here and everywhere across Canada. So yeah, I think there is going to be many of conversations between those products with Maple Leaf. And I can only hope so.
I agree. Like, when I was in Toronto a couple of years ago, the amount of independent shows that were going on in Southern Ontario was crazy. Like, I couldn't keep up with all the different names and different wrestlers, and I imagine there's going to be a lot of help from those independents to fill some of these cards out. But very curious what Maple Leaf Pro is going to do. It's one of those things where I fully believe and I guess trust Scott D'Amore is going to put out a great product, because I look at what he did for Impact Wrestling and TNA Wrestling to turn that around and make it what it is today. And so it's kind of like the Federation, like the Fed right now. I trust what they're doing, even though certain storylines I don't know where they're going, which I probably shouldn't know where they're going. But, like, I trust that there's a very good plan and process for the next 8 months up till Mania. I trust Scott D'Amore that he's probably got like a 3-year plan for matches laid out, where he wants to go, markets he wants to hit, goals he wants to hit. And I'm so excited to see where it goes and what can be done. So Maple Leaf Pro, I'm very, very excited to see what they do. And fingers crossed, man, they come to our area. I'll be the first guy there with a t-shirt.
Yep. You'll be buying all the shirts. I
like
know
their
you're
logo.
a merch guy. You're a merch guy.
But check them out. You can follow them on the socials. Just Google it. I can't remember their socials right now. I believe it's just at Maple Leaf Pro or ML Pro. But they're on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. The one thing I do like about their YouTube and I believe on their Twitter is they're putting up video that they have from old Maple Leaf Wrestling from back in the day. And I think that's cool as hell. So you can also, I've retweeted a bunch of their stuff on the In My House Pro Wrestling Podcast Twitter page at In My House Pod. So you can search it up there as well. But very cool. I like seeing that a Canadian company is got some steam behind it and making its debut.
Yeah, let's push it, because looking on their Twitter at Maple Leaf PW, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, go ahead and check that out, because I'm literally going through and I'm like, oh wow, Tyson Ducks and Shinsuke Nakamura,
right,
from 2014. Like there is some content here, so let's get excited with what's coming next.
Excited and support. Absolutely. CWE did announce their next tour for us here in the Queen City. They're coming in November. I believe it's on a Tuesday.
On a goddamn Tuesday.
I'm gonna say technically I don't like it. We'll be there. But it's tour dates and venue dates and availability. There's no way I can blame anybody in this situation. That's just how tours work out sometimes. We've gotten irritated when a show lands on a pay-per-view date, and Danny straight up said, sorry, man, like that's just the way the tour worked out because of venues and wrestler availability and venue availability.
It's the stuff we don't factor in, right? But I'll still be a bitch about it.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday? Something tells me the In My House Pro Wrestling Podcast records on Tuesdays.
It does.
Sorry, gang. See you Thursday that week.
Yeah, but
we'll
very
still
excited.
We're excited for the show.
Yeah, we're very excited for the show. Anytime they announce, it's just like, oh, what's the date? All right, cool. We'll be there. We'll be there. So yeah, very excited about that. But Mike, in WWE right now, Monday Night Raw this week. I do want to talk to you real quick about New Day before we get to AEW.
Yeah, you did mention my favorites, the New Day.
We love the New Day. So obviously, Big E's out. I don't think he's ever coming back to wrestling, but that's just me. I'm hoping I'm wrong. Love to be wrong on that.
Now, this is where we can have this conversation. Let me know your thoughts. Big E's out.
Yeah.
The New Day has been hanging on by a thread.
They've been doing all right.
Sure. Yeah, they're like the peak of popularity, the New Day.
They're the seasoned veteran team now that's helping get other teams and other people over. That's what they're doing now. And I think they've done a great job at it. So right now, both Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston have been coming off of injuries, almost just missing each other. So it's just been a little bit wonky, but they've been feuding with the Final Testament with Karrion Kross and Authors of Pain. And Karrion Kross is doing a great job of singling out Xavier Woods, saying, hey, anytime that there's anything mentioned on the New Day, they're talking about Kofi Kingston. They're talking about Big E. They're not talking about you. Guys like Kofi are holding you back. And Woods has done a great job deflecting and rebutting everything. But I think it's starting to work. I think it's starting to weigh him down a bit, because last week on Raw, we saw the debut of Odyssey Jones on the main roster. He comes out to help the New Day. Kofi says, yeah, I called my guy. He's our guy. Come and help us out, because we knew we were outmanned by the Final Testament. And Woods didn't look very happy about it. On Raw this week, Odyssey Jones has his debut match. Kofi's like, we're going to be out there with them. Woods like, we are? Really? I think it's coming, dude. Is it the beginning of the end of the New Day?
How do you keep it fresh, right? You split them. The moment that brings them back together is when Big E comes in. Like, but how huge is that for fans, right? Like, split the New Day. Like I said, we got to see the height of New Day popularity.
We did.
And like saw it live.
Yeah.
Boudio's box and all. But like that shtick's great. And like obviously they're a huge web presence for WWE. So like that's important. Granted, like with Up, Up, Down, Down, they're not the New Day, right? Like these people get to be, I mean, I know Tom hates it because they're not like in character, it's not kayfabe, but it's good to get that look of wrestlers outside of the gimmick. But for the New Day, yeah, you need to spice it up. I think a Woods and Kofi match, it's great. Like it's great booking for a big show. Like it's a highlight to be like the video package itself would be incredible through the history of that.
Yeah.
But I really do think the catalyst is like, I think Big E is gonna go. I do.
Wow.
And I think they're really waiting. Like they're really waiting because first of all, you get to try him in a whole bunch of outlets, put him on a panel. He's usable there. Like he's great. Like it's going to be another thing we can use him for. So his dates don't have to be as heavy. I think he has been able to go, but now with the state of WWE, especially like Big E coming back is like, it's great, but they're not going to use that moving forward. Big E isn't going to get the push to the moon. The New Day is still going to be where they are. The card is just filled with great things going on. So it's hard to just push them into stuff. But I think this helps and gets back to the Big E coming back in and bringing everyone back together.
That was going to be my main point is even if he is ready and they're waiting, where do you fit him in on this card? Sure, you could technically just add him back into the New Day, but the guy is so beloved, former champion, and really had a really bad stroke of bad luck with the way his championship run went, then getting hurt. It was awful, not the way it should go. So you could just add him back in, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. But where would you add him back in when everything is clicking right now and you don't really have a spot on the roster for another main event guy? So I definitely understand that. My thing with the New Day is it seemed like they were on that path of they're just never going to break up. And even though every tag team breaks up, they wanted to be the one team that didn't. And I was on that train for quite a while, even if it did just like they stopped tagging together, but they were still
the New Day.
New Day. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But now it doesn't seem that way unless we're going to get a big swerve and Woodsy stays face. Which I think that's more likely to happen than him turning heel. I would love this. Could you imagine if Woods turned heel?
I think Woods should be the one to turn heel because I don't buy it from Kofi.
Yeah, no. But could you imagine if Woods turned heel, Big E comes back, but Big E turns heel too on Kofi?
Man, I mean, yeah.
Right?
That's good booking too. Like that makes it really interesting, and you could fit it in the card. Like it's something worth watching. Then it's exciting that you can put on that first hour and a half, right? Like, that's actually great booking. I didn't even think about Big E coming back and just being like siding with Woods, but I think he's coming back to bring them together. They will end like this is the blip in the road, right? And Big E will show them like we were always supposed to be together. That's how I feel about the goddamn Usos. Like anyone who listened to last week's episode, like. That's how I feel about the Usos.
Yeah.
Get them back together. Listen, great for main event Jay. Like he's got the yeeting happening. They're not pushing him to a spot where he is going to get a belt.
They haven't used him in forever other than backstage.
But this is and it's literally like, we'll let you have this little bit after Mania, right? Like, and like, I guess even right before it, but like, that bloodline is coming back together. Like this has been established. They're gonna get back together.
Yeah.
Jimmy and Jay are gonna be a tag team again. They're gonna end. I would say they should end their careers as a tag team.
I agree with that.
And arguably be in easy top 10 of all time.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny it at this point. Like they've done it.
Yeah. I can't argue that. I agree. The New Day, when they do wrap it up, should be a unit. A team. They should be the New Day. But I fought this for so long, but now I'm very much on the fence of I don't think I'd mind it if one of them turned and we got something different.
Yeah, it makes for better programming, and for us, like when something is going so long, you're like, hey, what are you gonna do to shake it up? And it's wrestling after all, so your answers are really like they're gonna turn to be a bad guy.
Yeah, I love it. It makes me happy that something with the New Day is being done. But let us know what you think about what's happening with the New Day at MIL's Pod on all the socials. We teased it before, but I do want to get into this before we run out of time, Mike, where AEW is just their biggest show of the year is coming up.
Yeah.
It's All in Wembley Stadium. Last time they were there, 80-some thousand.
Great turnout.
Amazing turnout. We're not getting that. I believe there's somewhere around 40,000 for tickets right now, which is still a massive number in my opinion. I think that's huge. But it's the other shows that attendance is down. And they're looking to try to do another stadium show in Dallas where the Texas Rangers play. And it's the show in New York, the Arthur Ashe Stadium one, which is Grand Slam, Dynamite Grand Slam that they put on every year. Started off with 15,000, like a massive number. That place was sold out, people hanging from the rafters, and the attendance has gone down quite a bit. This year it's looking awful. I want to say somewhat near 4,000 tickets have been handed out sold for that. My goodness. Mike, I want to try to help fix AEW.
Do you? Okay.
And without just stating the obvious of you need better storylines and you can't just have random matches for the sake of random matches. My number one thing, Mike, I'm just going to jump into it. My number one thing is you stopped at some point building stars. You really stopped. Maybe it was because of injury or whatever reason, but man, you really stopped building stars. MJF came out. He's a massive star. He's one of your top guys. It was going great. And I think it still is. I'm not a big fan of the storyline he's in right now, just the way it's working out. But you've got the young bucks. You've got the coolest kids in pro wrestling 10 years ago. When they were kids, they were very young. And Cody's gone. The Young Bucks are rarely seen on TV weekly. And they seem to flip-flop when they do come back to being whether they're a heel or a face. And for me, who I enjoy the Young Bucks, I like their on-screen presence. I think they're great. I think they can be very cool at times, but like this run of heel run right now, I swear the last time I saw them before they went on a little break was they were top baby faces. Then they come back with these weird heel gimmicks. And there's not enough meat on the bone of the storyline where I'm like, okay, this makes sense or I'm enjoying it. They stop and start and stop and start with so many pro wrestlers in that company that you can't invest as a fan as much as you could in that first year or two. It's so frustrating. It is beyond frustrating. My big thing is they've got to figure that out.
Go ahead. I mean, you're right. You're in the, I'm going to say just 10 to 14 age range. When you turn the channel, who are you supposed to be rooting for? Whose shirt are you going to buy when you go to the store, right? Like, yeah, Tony should know. It's not like he didn't watch The Fed or WCW or ECW. You put your money behind a guy because you know you're able to sell shirts. You're going to sell merchandise. When kids go to the toy store, they know what action figure they want to buy. Yes, it's great. Everybody has one, but there is one that is clearly going to outsell that. I don't know who that is in AEW. Granted, it's also the iPad generation of kids, so like they don't care to play with action figures. Like it's adults now who go and like they get all of them. Yeah, but no, like collecting is so huge amongst people in our age group, right? But that's hurting your business. The idea that tickets aren't being sold shows, you said it best in our group chat. Everyone probably wants a piece of this group chat. You know what? Maybe one day we'll start a Patreon where we'll give you some of the group chat, not everything, but some of it. You've got to spread out into markets now that you haven't touched, because obviously where you have been going and continue to go, they are burnt out. You said it. They're burnt out. It's sad when you see like how many seats are in here and you've sold X amount of tickets. I mean, you have Sean Ross Saps of the world reporting that like, well, the talent's not worried. I'm like, I wouldn't be either with the bank flow that is behind the Khan family.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can keep going.
But I find it shocking too, where your TV is obviously not doing as good as it once was. Your attendance for shows, that's going to get harder and harder to hide. That is like, if you're on the production team, you're like, man, like, I'm sure they're marvels at it, right? But they're just like, we can't go this way because there's no one on this side of the building.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling people to work your matches in a way where you're like, don't go over there. You're like, well, clearly. And it's not to say that too. Like, I saw relevant points because I know everyone's like, we're so pro-Fed. There was blocked off areas in Cleveland. Like, that was not a sellout. That was very much so blocked off seating as well. So AEW fans want to point that out. I'm aware, but they sure as hell sold a lot more fucking tickets than what have been getting sold for AEW events. And you're right. Good stories. Tony, lessen the reins. I think with everyone seeing the Shane McMahon photo, if you're Shane McMahon of the McMahons, how do you look at Tony and be like, we can save this? Do you think Shane McMahon's going to that meeting to say, you're going to compete with them? TNA lives in a bubble.
Yeah.
It's awesome. They're like, I look at it like video game industry. So it's like Microsoft and Sony fight each other all the time, but Nintendo just does whatever the fuck it wants.
Yeah.
And they just don't
so
care. TNA is now just like, oh, we'll do this deal over here and with you and with you. Get our talent, but our show gets to survive. Everybody's going to win. We're getting eyes over here. We're playing nice. We're not competing with you guys. We're doing what's best for TNA. AEW has all of these high-level contracts of like the internet's favorite stars. It is now showing that the Performance Center and the way WWE is going about getting talent in is the way to go. Like they've always said, they're like, we're breeding the future. Turns out they weren't goddamn lying.
It's true. And you've got more cases right now than not of if Triple H is calling somebody up from NXT, there's a plan. It's not for not every single person, but a majority of the people that they're calling up because they've done everything they can in NXT. There's now trust that they can work on the main roster. There's a plan. And with maybe AEW's attempting to go to do that with Ring of Honor being their developmental, but it's not happening right now. They've got like they're doing their Collision shows, Ring of Honor shows, and Rampage shows in a place in Texas where they do esports, little stadium building arena. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, it looked cool for a show or two, but then it starts looking generic, looking like a studio wrestling show, which I'm personally not always a fan of. I didn't grow up in that era of NWA studio show wrestling, so it looks fine for what it is, but after a couple weeks, it looks stale. It looks boring. It looks like I'm seeing reruns of 2 weeks earlier. So yeah. I understand why they did it because it's probably a huge money saving cost. But again, ticket report sales have been brutally just declining in that building as well. So it's so much simpler to say than it is to do.
No,
but
for sure. We don't have a wrestling promotion.
Building stars and storylines will trump everything. So AEW, I'm not saying they're not trying to do that, but the record shows right now it's not working with what they're doing. So
no. And it's sad because like I think there's a lot of great talent there. I think a lot of great work happens in AEW, but I feel for those people who like we worked the Fed and you go into those arenas. Like you try to explain to younger stars in the back to be like, this is not good.
Yeah. And now you've got guys like Penta and Phoenix like wanting to leave, let their contract run out to allegedly join WWE because you've done everything you can with Penta and Phoenix in AEW in a couple of years and now they're out. So that hot shotting business doesn't work too well either. But let us know what you think. How would you try to help AEW? What do you think will work? Hit us up on all the socials at In My House Pod. You'll find us there, guys. Quick little potty here for you, but again, we're everywhere: Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else is all your favorite platforms. Mike, this is a good one.
It's a good one. I miss you. Love you, Tom.
Love you, brother. For Monday Night Mike, I'm Scotty Villa. This is the In My House Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome to my house. Play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go out. Welcome to my to my house.
It's my house.
Yowie wowie.